On the west end of Belly of Fire State Park in Nevada is Atlatl Rock. Rising 100 foot above the desert sand is Atlatl Petroglyph, to which it lends its name to the rock. Timber Adventures has thrown an atlatl a few times over the years. And what is an atlatl? It's a stick that is manipulated to form a spear thrower or a dart thrower. They use this stick to propel a dart or spear, and this is used for hunting and sometimes as a weapon. Nessie said throw that dart at the subscribe button and stick around for her and Timber's adventures. So the petroglyphs are rock art, and that art is pecked, carved, grooved, or inscribed into stone. In Native American pre-contact history, these petroglyphs can be images, geometrical shapes, figures, portrayals of legends among the first peoples. They are a storyboard that tells a tale step by step, maybe a tale of hunting adventure, a hunting trip, a conquest, interaction with neighboring people, a highlight of a time they experienced, such as a solstice, an eclipse, symbols that represent animals, and more. And some of these petroglyphs are used for boundary markers, maybe telling others that this is their territory or their hunting grounds. And it's also may be used as a spiritual connection and a spiritual communication. They could have served many different purposes, and we have some oral history that defines what some stand for and their meaning. At the same time, there are others that we will never know their purpose or meaning, as it's lost to time, it's lost to the peoples that are no longer around, or a culture that is gone, as changes have taken place many times in indigenous pre-contact history over thousands and thousands of years. Atlatl Rock is the name given to an area that is covered with petroglyphs within Belly of Fire State Park located in Nevada. The carving on these desert rocks is special. They are carved into the dark desert varnish that sits on the heart rock, which is what they call those large stone outcrops. With the desert weather, these petroglyphs last a very long time and show details as well. To look upon them and imagine that some are 4,000 years old and probably older in some instances is mind-boggling. On the outcropping of rocks, there is a very noticeable atlatl and dart carved, which gives the outcropping its namesake, as I mentioned. But to stop at that atlatl is nearly impossible to consider once you're there. These petroglyphs cover the surrounding canyons, and the Atlatl petroglyph is a highlight, and you can walk up a 100-foot metal staircase, which is over in the past that was actually a stone carved staircase into the stone itself. But the Atlatl Rock is the main attraction. Often it's cited in literature or tourism. We went towards dusk to Atlatl Rock, and this is after we did some other climbs. It was cooler at dusk, and we walked up on there and started looking, and you could have walked into those canyons looking at the carvings. Some are at ground level, many are 20 foot above you or higher. They stand out boldly, and they depicted every shape, figure that we can conjure up in our minds. But remember, indigenous people saw things in a far, far different abstract way than the typical neuro mind. So let's face it, we see things concretely. A dog is a dog, a bird, a bird. These are intricate lines and special different patterns, and some represent the very things I just described a second ago, a coyote or a dog or a bird, but with a different eye than we could ever imagine. It's rock art, and it truly is art. I've seen them talk about these carvings in pamphlets and all over the internet. And it always says, for 1,000 foot to the campground, these carvings can be viewed. I got to tell you that it wasn't just limited to that distance. These carvings have no boundaries. They're everywhere you look. In an email exchange with a gentleman once, he told me that he lived there for many years and visited there often. He stated, I guarantee on your one little visit, walking in and out of those canyons, you probably saw a petroglyph that I have never noticed. He said each time that he would go, he would notice another one that he didn't see before, whether because of the angle, the lighting, or just the sheer abundance of carvings. It makes for a truly memorable and unique experience for anyone going to see these petroglyphs. They're carved in every nook and crevice. There is some vandalism, probably more random foolishness in art historical times when someone just had to leave their mark in that area. And yes, it's disappointing. And I often say that we're social creatures and we'd like to leave our mark. In one sense, it can be seen as like a unity of people and maybe tradition. And others, my buddy says that he believes in another culture of people comes upon these petroglyphs, they feel this overwhelming need to make a statement of dominance or an air of superiority. And I'm sure that is true in some cases. But you need to look beyond those areas because there are areas where no random tourist will wander into. Areas where some lazy vandal probably wouldn't consider important enough to have a carbon. But the art is there for you to find and see. That heartstone that I had mentioned earlier, its formal name is Aztec Sandstone. The petroglyphs were most likely made by the past Pueblan people, more attuned to the Anasazi culture. There were farmers who grew crops in the nearby Moepa Valley, and it has rich and fertile ground, and they would have occupied that from 300 BC to about 1150 AD, from what I've read. These canyons and walls served as their canvas for their spiritual outlet, and were held in reverence to our culture back then and still to this day. The Valley of Fire State Park gives me another chance to talk about how it was born out of the economic downturn in the 30s. The work was completed and done by the Civilian Conservation Corps. The land was obtained in 1931. The CCC started working in 1933. Roads, campgrounds, stone cabins and buildings and trails were all completed by the men of the CCC. Camp was opened in 1934 and they continued their work through all the CCC days into 1940. So when you visit, remember all that history from all the way in BC till now. And please be respectful and know that these held enormous significance to their carvers and to many indigenous to this day. It's a spiritual connection and one that I can never truly connect with entirely. They weren't made for me. Remember, you can get lost in those gullies, crevices, cliffs, passages between the rocks when looking and seeing these petroglyphs. And maybe that's not a bad thing. Take some water and keep your eyes open and you may see a carving that is unique and rarely sighted by others, maybe only by you. Limited possibilities and beauty. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.